Hi everybody, and welcome. This is Binghamton University here to help you through the transition to come to our university in a few short weeks. What I'd like to do is give you a chance to understand what it's going to be like here whenever you arrive and within your first few weeks of classes. My name is Amanda Sherratt, and I am the Senior Associate Director for International Recruitment here at Binghamton. Here today I have a few panelists that are going to help kind of introduce different areas that will be of importance to you over the first few weeks, and these resources that can be ongoing help for you while you're at Binghamton. So I'm going to introduce a panel now. Please, if you take a chance to...
Yes, so my name is Soyuz Shrestha. I'm a Harper academic advisor. I was an international student as well when I came to the US, and I've been in Binghamton as a student for a really long time, but I've been working as an academic advisor for the last 3.5 years.
Hi, I am Betsy Staff. I'm the Associate Director for New Student Programs. Our office is the office that's responsible for the orientation program for new students. I have been at Binghamton University for 11 years in a variety of different positions, but the longest with new student programs.
Hi, I'm Emily Panagrosso. I'm the Assistant Director of the University Counseling Center. As you'll learn more, the Counseling Center is a place where you can come sort of separate from other offices to kind of talk through some personal challenges. And I've been with Binghamton for 4 years now.
Great, thanks everybody for being here today. First I'm going to start out with Harper Advising to learn a bit about the scheduling process and what will happen academically as you're coming here. So could you talk to me a little bit about how they're going to select courses and when they select courses?
Yes, so during orientation we will give them a presentation about what their degree requirements are going to be like, what their Harper requirements are going to be like. So we will go in detail about what are the things that they need to do to fulfill their degree. And then we will also give them guidance on what is a balanced schedule, for example. So first semester at Binghamton, it's a transition to Binghamton. So you don't want to overload on too many science math courses. So we'll talk about how to create a balanced schedule. So typically students will do maybe one course for their major, maybe 2 courses for their general education requirement, and maybe 1 course for their English track or the writing requirement. So, and then the day 2 of the orientation, typically we will help them schedule their courses. So they will use certain tools that we have available, like the schedule of classes on the BU Brain portal and also the college scheduler. And we will guide them through the whole process of how to select courses. So they will get guidance throughout the orientation, and they should definitely not be worried about that.
Great. I know that we have a lot of students coming in that have taken AP or IB or A-level courses.
Yes.
Is there any way that they may be able to transfer in credits?
So yes, they can. They will need to send those transcripts from College Board to Binghamton Admissions. Typically, students who have a score of 3 or better on APs will have some kind of credit for that. IBs, I think it's 5 through 7. Scores of 5 through 7 will give them some kind of credit as well. So they definitely want to talk to their advisor about what APs and IBs they've completed, and we'll tell them which courses they should not repeat if they've already earned credits for, and what the next course would be if they want to take the next course in the sequence, for example.
Also, I know that there's placement tests.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about what the placement tests are going to help with, and
Yes.
what we could expect from a placement test?
Yes, so the main placement tests that all international students have to do are the English language placement exams. It's basically to help students kind of like develop their English study skills, language skills, listening skills, reading skills. What we found is that students typically in their first year might struggle because they're having this transition from going to a different teaching system to a system where everything is taught in English. So we kind of do an assessment of what level they're at. So the placement exam is 2 hours long, and it's not a pass-fail exam. It's more about assessing how they or what level they're at. So depending on what level they are at, they might be placed into 1 or 2 English Language Institute classes, ELI classes. Uh, the tracks, there are 5 of them, so they will have to complete the tracks within a year or two. If they are placed really high, then they won't be in any of the tracks, and they can do a writing class if they choose to do so. The other placement exam is for the the calculus placement exam. So students who wanna major in the sciences, major in math, major in economics, for example, will have to do a calculus placement exam. The calculus placement exam is typically 30 questions of algebra and trigonometry. So it's not really calculus questions, but it's just a way to gauge, do they have the background to do well in Calc 1 when they start off.
Great, great. So I know that, you know, the placement exams and everything coming in is meant to make sure that students are comfortable in the classes they're choosing. What happens if a student is struggling in the classes?
So if a student is struggling in a class, I typically tell everybody to go talk to their professors as soon as possible, go to their office hours. So every faculty has office hours that they hold every week. If you have a whole bunch of questions about things you're not understanding, it is always a great idea to go meet the professor one-on-one or in a group setting. A lot of professors are very they know that students need help one-on-one, so they will be very willing to meet with them one-on-one. And I know as an international student, some students are not used to going to office hours, and I think that would be very beneficial if they got used to doing that. Let's say they talk to the professor, but they still feel like they need more help. There's tutoring available through the university tutorial services, which are completely free. They can schedule tutoring appointments with free tutors for especially the big introductory classes. And then the last resort, if you are really struggling with the class and you feel like you're not going to do well in it, you can come talk to a Harper advisor about the next steps. So if you come to us before the course withdrawal deadline, we can talk about withdrawing from a class, for example, or changing a class to a pass-fail. In some cases, that might be beneficial to them. International students do have to maintain a full-time status. So if they do withdraw from a class, they definitely want to talk to a Harper advisor because that might affect their visa status. So I would do those steps.
Got you. I know that within the first few weeks of class, there's a drop-out period.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about what that is, just an introduction?
Yes. So during orientation, not everybody gets their perfect schedule, and everybody wants a perfect schedule. Some of the classes you really want might be full already. So during the add drop period, students will have a week and a half to 2 weeks to kind of like change their schedule. So a lot of the seniors maybe or juniors who are previously registered for those classes might be changing their minds about certain classes. So the classes that were previously closed during orientation might open up. So you want to use that time to kind of see what other classes are available that you might want to take. You might go to the first day of class to a certain class that you thought was very interesting when you read it on the computer, but then maybe you find that it's way above your level. Like it's not something you would be interested in or be able to do well in. Then if you change your mind, you can use the add drop period to change your schedule. There's no consequence for doing that, so if you drop a course, it will be like as if you were never in that class. If you miss the deadline and you withdraw from a course, you typically have a W on your transcript, whereas if you add drop, there is no consequence.
So to wrap up, one last question I have for you is, what is the biggest way that students can get help from Harper Advising, and how often should they be in contact with Harper Advising?
With Harper Advising, I would definitely say at least once a semester and more as needed. We typically help students with exploring majors and minors, academic and career goals. So if you are not sure what to major in, you definitely want to come talk to a Harper advisor. If you're not sure what your degree requirements are, what your Harper degree requirements are, you want to talk to a Harper advisor. Every student should plan out their degree, so what you take this semester might affect what you do 2 years down the line. So sometimes it's good to plan out your academic degree well before the semesters that are following. The other thing we help students with are understanding university policies and procedures. The policies and procedures at Binghamton might be very, very different than what they're used to in their previous country. So you definitely want to talk to an advisor about withdrawing from a class, how to late add a course, for example, how to register for internship credits, for example. The final thing that I tell international students to definitely see us for is sometimes students do struggle and they have to withdraw from a course, and withdrawing can affect their status, it can affect their future semesters, so they want to talk to us if they plan to do that. And finally, if you want to apply for work permits for internships, especially for off-campus internships, then you will meet with us as well.
Great, thank you so much for sharing.
Um,
So for all international students that are coming to campus, it's great to know that we have some help for you for really getting your schedule in order. But really the first experience that you have whenever you come to Binghamton is going through an orientation. So Betsy, I'm going to ask you, what can everybody expect from orientation?
So orientation for our international students is many days. It spans from Thursday, August 15th to Monday, August 19th. And the programming that we have on all of those days is placed very intentionally for the students to set them up for the semester, to be best prepared coming in and exposing them to the resources that will help them be successful. So there's many days. It's important to go to all of the programming that we do have.
Great. Is there something that the students should do to be prepared, or something they should bring with them whenever they come to orientation?
Yep, so our students right now are have access to our orientation checklist on my.binghamton.edu, and they should start going through those checklist items to make sure that they're on the right foot for academic advising and for all of our resources that we have on campus. It also exposes them to ways to submit their photo ID card photo so that they can have an ID card when they get to campus, since that's such an important piece of being a student at Binghamton. One thing that they really do absolutely need to do when they get here for orientation is they must check in with the International Student and Scholar Services Office, or ISSS, on Thursday, August 15th in the morning. They'll get their schedule for the complete international orientation, and they'll also go over information about immigration regulations and kind of some safety and wellness stuff. They'll also get some information about those exams that were talked about already with the English language assessment and when to take that exam.
Great. So can you talk to me a little bit about how the orientation is going to help students get ready for the start of the classes?
So we offer a lot of different programming throughout the orientation. The first day with the ISSS office, like I said, is the immigration regulations. So things that will allow you to be in the United States and be a student here at Binghamton University. The second day, on Friday, August 16th, is conference style, where we are trying to expose students to the different resources and start introducing them to academic advising, to the Fleischman Center, to our careers, or I'm sorry, where is it careers? To our University Counseling Center, all of those resources. And they'll also get tours of the campus, of the library, things that they might need in those first couple weeks of the semester. It will also provide them an opportunity to meet new students and to start to get to know some of the faculty and staff on campus that are here to support their success. So our programming that we have on Saturday and Monday is a lot about course registration. We want them to get the information that they need from their academic college to register for classes on Monday morning.
Great. So can you tell me, is there anything, if a student has an additional question that's not addressed during the orientation, who should they see to make sure they get answers to the questions they have?
I think it's really dependent on what the question is, but one of the reasons why we expose students to so many resources at orientation is so that they then have made a connection with that office or that person so that they can go and be proactive and reach out to those resources themselves. And so we encourage people to reach out to Harbor Academic Advising if it's something specific. Reach out to the International and Student Scholar Services office if it's something that has to do with their I-20 or their immigration status. We want them to actually go to the resources specifically so that they get the correct answer. In the meantime, since they haven't been exposed to all those resources yet, they can feel free to contact the orientation office, and our email address is orientation@binghamton.edu, or they can contact ISSS through their email address is intlori@binghamton.edu.
Got you, thank you. So I guess also if a student has gone to orientation and says, you know what, I can't remember some of the information that I got there, where might they find that information? Is it available at the website, or would you say also reach out and contact individual departments?
Yeah, some of that information will be available on the ISSS website because they do upload a lot of that information to their website as well. But yes, seeking out those specific departments that on their websites, so much of this information can be found on the individual department websites.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Now I guess it was great that we heard that orientation is going to pull all the different departments of Binghamton together that you're going to need to help you throughout your academic career and your social, I guess, life whenever you're at Binghamton. It's good to know that that's kind of the first step here. Next, we're going to listen a little bit about how counseling and the services around counseling are able to support you while you're here at Binghamton. Emily, could you let me know, what is, I guess, counseling able to do to help students?
Sure. So counseling is, the kind of counseling that the Counseling Center offers is personal counseling. It can be for emotional difficulties, social difficulties, behavioral ones. So it's a bit different from, sometimes you hear the word counseling associated with career counseling or academic counseling. So this is more personal or mental health counseling. So the Counseling Center is a place to come when you may be struggling or feel like you need to make a change, or you feel like you have something that you could benefit from sitting down and talking things out with somebody. It's a safe, supportive space that is really separate from a lot of the other offices, and that our office is confidential. So unless there's an imminent safety issue, everything stays confidential within our office. So it's completely separate and not part of your academic record or anything like that.
I think for a lot of different countries, some of the concepts of when you go and talk to somebody else can be different. So what do students do if they're homesick versus they're stressed out versus they're really in a conundrum themselves and are starting to feel physical effects of being stressed out? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah, it's a great question, because we do find that international students do tend to use the Counseling Center at a lower rate than maybe some of our other students. So we do really want to make sure that students know about the resource and feel comfortable coming to our center. You know, it depends. I think some students feel like if they're not comfortable coming or they're not sure, sometimes it's okay to give yourself a little time. It's perfectly normal to feel a little bit homesick or to feel a bit stressed when you come to Binghamton. Many students do, whether they're international students or not. For many, it's their first time away from home for an extended period of time. It can be really hard to live far away from family, friends, just acclimate to a brand new culture and environment and all the things that come along with that. So it's okay to give yourself a little bit of time and kind of be patient, and a lot of students find that after a little bit of time they do feel more comfortable and feel like, okay, I'm getting the hang of this. But it's also important to know that, you know, if you feel like it could be beneficial to talk, or if you're getting to the point where you're really struggling, like you say, with feeling really down or anxious, or noticing, like you say, sometimes we notice the effects of stress physically, you're not sleeping, or things like that. You know, the Counseling Center is a place where you can come on in and either schedule an appointment that may be a couple days out, or if you're feeling like you're really in a lot of distress, you can get an appointment that same day.
So if you're reluctant to kind of reach out to the Counseling Center, what do you I guess recommend to a student?
Yeah, I would want them to know that you know, I'd recommend giving it a try. We have, our counselors are, the role of a counselor is to be supportive and non-judgmental, so as a counselor is not gonna kind of tell you, oh, this problem is too big or too small, you know, no matter the issue, it's okay to come and talk it through, and then we may point you in a different direction if we feel like, oh, you know, what you need sounds like it would be an academic advising issue or a career counseling issue, but really it's a place, can be a good starting point if you're feeling like you're struggling. We also, it's important that we like to highlight that one of our counselors was an international student himself, and so, I mean, any counselor that we have would be well equipped to handle or to help students, but sometimes students like to know that they can specifically request to meet with him, and you know, they feel like it can be helpful to talk with somebody who knows firsthand about what that experience is like. He also, his name is Sung Moon, and each semester he offers a support group for international students as an opportunity for international students to sort of come together in a counseling environment, meaning it's a, you know, supportive place. It's an opportunity to connect with other students, to share some information, tips, support one another, maybe even practice your English, or just know that you're not alone in your experience. And Sang Moon, who has been through the experience himself in the past, can share a little bit about what it was like for him and what helped him.
So if a student takes advantage of the counseling services, do their faculty find out or their parents find out about that?
Great question. The answer is no. So again, it's a completely confidential setting. So students can come in and we cannot share information about your visit. The fact that you even came in to meet with us is not shared with anyone outside of our department, like a family member, a faculty member. The only exceptions to that are if you want somebody to know. So let's say, you know, you want a faculty member to know that, you know, for whatever reason that you came and are working on this issue, or something like that. If you were to sign a release, then we could share information. And in a very rare occasion, if we have enough concern about how you're doing that, we feel that there's a significant safety risk, then we might have to connect you with outside resources. But those are very rare exceptions, and other than that, the information stays completely confidential, so you know that, and that's designed to help. The reason that counseling is confidential is so that you can feel comfortable, hopefully, sharing what might be private or what might be hard to talk about with other people, and not worry about being judged for that.
How would you recommend the students can prepare themselves for, you know, coming into a brand new environment? There's a lot of stressors socially and culturally and emotionally whenever they make such a big change. What's your advice?
I think one of the things is just to know that it can be a stressful change. Any change, whether positive or negative, can be stressful. So to kind of be prepared for an adjustment period, an acculturation process of just getting used to being around a new language, new customs, new food, all the things that come along with being in a new culture, plus all the things that come along with being in a university setting, like maybe having a roommate for the first time, and academic pressure. So just kind of, you know, thinking a little bit about what might be different, and knowing that that can be challenging, and just sort of mentally having that in your mind, that even though you may be excited about this change, that it could be a little bit difficult at first. And then we usually recommend some balance of kind of maintaining connections with home, things that are familiar and comfortable, while also adjusting into things that are new. So for example, with food, maybe, you know, trying out new foods in the dining hall and things like that, but also maybe finding those restaurants or local stores that sell foods that are familiar and you know, make you, kind of remind you of home. At the same time, socially, it can be really great to, you know, get connected with your roommates, maybe join one of the student associations or organizations that connect you with other international students or students that have similar hobbies. At the same time, in advance, maybe coming up with a plan for how you're going to stay in touch with family and friends from home, you know, what time is gonna work, and are you gonna Skype, or what's that gonna be like, so you feel like you've got that connection to what's familiar and comfortable, while also kind of trying out new things.
That's great advice. As far as how the Counseling Center helps international students and as well as any new students, I would like to also kind of put that in the context of the university. Is there a lot of different things that you would recommend to students that they might want to take advantage of as far as making connections and networks to help them with their health as they're here?
Yeah, that's a great point, because research actually shows that having a good social network or group of social connections can really make the transition easier. So that might be coming to the counseling center, like you say, but it may be connecting with ISSS, which you mentioned has a lot of information about coming here as an international student, but they also do some programming and have good information about how to connect with other students. Like I said, joining an organization to get connected with things that interest you, making connections in the residence hall, so kind of, you know, being part of the programming that they have there, talking with your RA. So there's lots of different ways of getting support and meeting people, even if counseling is not for you or in addition to counseling.
Great. How do students get in touch with counseling to make sure that they can come see you if they need to?
Yeah, so our office is in a building called Old O'Connor, and we're actually right next to the admission center, so assuming that may be one of the highlights on the tour, we're kind of right next to or behind that building. There's information on our website, it's binghamton.edu/counseling, that shows where we're located, and students can just call or stop into our office to start the process for making an appointment. If it's your first time, we'll ask you to do some online paperwork, and then you can get an appointment from there.
Great, thanks so much. Well, we're going to wrap up, but before we do, I'm going to ask everybody to share their advice with all of you about what they would say they would want to make sure you think of for the first 6 weeks. So, do you have any advice for the first 6 weeks for these students?
Definitely, like, talk to more people. Like, the more people you talk to, the more information you gather. I think it'll help you make better decisions. Be proactive. Like, I mean, like, it can be very stressful, but if you're proactive and seeking help early on, I think it will set you to do well later on down the line. So.
My recommendation would be to take advantage of everything that we have going on during Welcome Week. So our Be Welcome Week starts on that Sunday, August 18th, with our Class of Bee photo, where they form this bee in people, actually. It's a really great way to meet other new students, and then you can go and share a meal together with the new student picnic. And so that's just the first night, and then throughout that whole week there are different events in the dining halls and the residence halls and in different offices where you get to meet the resources, you get to meet people. And one of the biggest things I think is the University Fest. University Fest is when all clubs and organizations from the Student Association are tabling, so you can see what kinds of groups we have on campus that you can get connected with other students. So taking advantage of all of those things that we have going on, while it could be exhausting to do all of them, while you're also trying to figure out food and the lay of the land and all of that, it's an opportunity that we put out there for new students, and everybody should really take advantage of it.
Great.
I would highlight, like I said earlier, building some social connections, being open to meeting new people, whether they're in your residence hall or an organization that you're thinking about joining, or you know, other international students that you may know or meet. But also be patient with yourself, because it can be very overwhelming, and it can feel like there's a lot to do in the beginning. And you know that if you don't have it all figured out in the first couple weeks, it doesn't mean everything's going to go wrong. Sometimes things take a little while to fall into place, but they do get there.
Thanks so much. Thanks to everybody, and I want to make sure that you know that we are here and ready to welcome you and can't wait to see you. So thanks a lot for tuning in.